Dust covers it. Years of neglect and forgotten pockets have hidden it from view. It's a dime, nothing more, or so it seems. But not all dimes are created equal. In rare cases, a 1966 Roosevelt dime can fetch anywhere from $78,650 to $165,450, a staggering leap for something most people consider mere change. And the story of how this ordinary coin became extraordinary is one of history, accident, and pure chance. In 1966, the United States was undergoing a quiet revolution in its coinage. The nation faced a shortage of circulating coins, fueled by the rising price of silver and the public's habit of hoarding older coins for their metal content. Just a year earlier, the mint had removed silver from dimes and quarters entirely, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. Roosevelt dimes, first introduced in 1946, became both a symbol of stability and a tool for navigating this transition. The mint was under immense pressure. Millions of coins had to be produced quickly to meet demand, all while preventing hoarding and keeping the economy running smoothly. To achieve this, they made a bold decision: remove the mint marks entirely. For the first time, every dime of 1966 looked identical at first glance, uniform and seemingly mundane. But hidden within that uniformity were anomalies waiting to be discovered decades later. Mistakes happened. In the roar of presses and the endless rhythm of planchets being struck, some coins ended up on the wrong blanks, with worn dies or struck off-center. A handful of these errors would ultimately become some of the most sought-after coins in American numismatics. Among the most remarkable are dimes accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets, blanks from pre-1965 production that should never have entered circulation. These coins carry the wrong composition, 90% silver instead of the new copper-nickel blend. They are heavier, shimmer differently, and produce a distinct, high-pitched ring when dropped. To a collector, spotting one is like hearing a whisper of history in a crowded room. Then there are the double die errors, subtle and almost ghostly. Under magnification, Liberty, or In God We Trust, may appear doubled. Roosevelt's profile might show faint shadows along the edges, as if the die itself trembled during striking. These errors occurred when the die received a misaligned impression before mass production. Thousands of coins could emerge before anyone noticed, leaving only a few surviving examples for collectors to uncover decades later. Other rare errors include off-center strikes, partial rims, die cracks, or coins failing to meet weight standards. At first glance, most people wouldn't notice anything unusual. But for the observant collector, these subtle details reveal the coin's hidden story, a story of production pressures, human error, and historical circumstance. Discovery moments are almost cinematic. Imagine a collector opening a box inherited from a relative. Coins spill across a table. One dime looks ordinary. Under a loupe, however, its edge glimmers differently. A scale reveals it weighs slightly more. The lettering appears doubled. A thrill runs through the collector. This small, overlooked coin could be one of the rare examples that commands five-figure sums, sometimes as high as $165. For 50. Auction records confirm the reality. Certified 1966 Roosevelt dime error coins, especially silver transitional strikes or high-grade double dies, have sold in public and private sales for prices between $78,650 and $165,450. These numbers are not exaggerations. They are verified, documented, and part of the living history of numismatics. A coin that once sat unnoticed in a pocket or drawer can suddenly rewrite a collector's financial story overnight. Condition is everything. A coin in poor condition, even with a rare error, will not fetch the same price as a mint-state specimen with full luster and sharp details. Professional grading services authenticate these coins, assign them a grade, and protect them, making buyers confident and further driving their value. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of these coins is where they are found. Not in museums, not in vaults. They emerge from dusty jars, forgotten drawers, inherited collections, or even loose change in a wallet. Decades of casual neglect preserved them, allowing history to remain hidden until someone knew what to look for. The 1966 Roosevelt dime is a reminder that history often hides in plain sight. Small mistakes, decisions made under pressure, and the unpredictability of production combined to create a coin that few expected to survive, and even fewer could have imagined being worth so much. Every detail, every imperfection, is a window into the past. An economy in transition, a mint struggling to meet demand, and a collector's lucky eye decades later. So the next time you handle a dime from the 1960s, take a closer look. Check the weight, examine the lettering, and listen to its tone. What seems mundane could hold a secret worth tens of thousands of dollars, a whisper of history, and the thrill of discovering something truly extraordinary. That small coin, overlooked by generations, is a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can hide the most extraordinary stories. Think about the loose change you've handled without a second thought. The dime dropped into a tip jar, the one rattling around in your car's cup holder. Now imagine that one of those dimes, small, silver-colored, and easy to ignore, could secretly be worth anywhere from $67,880 to $151,990. It sounds unbelievable, but that's exactly the hidden reality behind one of the most intriguing modern-era coins ever discovered. The 1983 U.S. Roosevelt one dime. In 1983, the United States was in the middle of a quiet but important transition. Inflation from the late 1970s was still fresh in people's minds. Manufacturing processes were being streamlined, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins efficiently and cheaply. Coins were no longer made of precious metals like silver, but instead relied on carefully engineered clad compositions designed to last while keeping costs low. On the surface, the Roosevelt dime seemed simple, even boring. But behind the scenes, small mistakes were slipping through, and those mistakes would later shock collectors. The Roosevelt dime had been in circulation since 1946, created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his role in leading the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. By 1983, the design was extremely familiar. Millions of Americans handled these dimes daily without ever looking closely at them. That familiarity is exactly why the most valuable examples went unnoticed for so long. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark on the coin, production lines ran nonstop. Blank planchets were fed into powerful presses, struck at incredible speeds, and ejected into bins before being shipped across the country. Every step depended on precision. But when machines wear down, dies weaken, or the wrong materials enter the process, extraordinary errors can occur. One of the most famous and valuable errors associated with the 1983 D Roosevelt dime involves missing or weak mint marks. That tiny D beneath the date was supposed to be clear and sharp, but in some cases, it appears faint, malformed, or missing entirely due to grease-filled dies or improper striking pressure. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. To a collector, it's a red flag that something rare may be hiding in plain sight. Even more dramatic are off-metal and wrong planchet errors. Some 1983 dimes were struck on planchets intended for other coins, or on improperly prepared blanks that resulted in unusual weight, thickness, or coloration. These coins feel wrong the moment they're picked up. They might weigh slightly more or less than expected, sound different when dropped on a hard surface, or display an odd hue under bright light. These errors are incredibly rare because most were caught and destroyed before leaving the mint. There are also die deterioration and double die errors found on select 1983 D dimes. Under magnification, parts of the lettering, date, or Roosevelt's profile can appear doubled or distorted. These errors happened when worn dies continued to be used past their optimal lifespan. Instead of being replaced, they kept striking coins, quietly creating rare variations that would only be noticed decades later. Imagine a collector sitting at a desk late at night, sorting through rolls of old dimes bought from a bank years ago. One coin feels different. The shine isn't quite right. Under a magnifying glass, the mint mark looks strange, or maybe it's not there at all. The weight doesn't match the standard. In that moment, excitement replaces doubt. What seemed like pocket change suddenly becomes a discovery. Auction records have proven that these discoveries are very real. Authenticated 1983 D Roosevelt dimes with major errors, especially those certified by professional grading services and preserved in high condition, have sold for astonishing prices. Private sales and public auctions have documented values ranging from $67,880 to as high as $151,990, depending on the type of error, its visibility, and the coin's overall condition. Even seasoned numismatists have been stunned by how much demand exists for these modern rarities. Condition plays a massive role in value. A heavily worn error coin might still be collectible, but it will never command the same price as one in near-perfect condition. Coins graded in mint state with sharp details and clean surfaces are exponentially more valuable. Professional grading not only confirms authenticity but also gives buyers confidence that the error is genuine and not the result of post-mint damage. What makes the story of the 1983 Roosevelt dime so compelling is where these coins are found. Not locked away in museums, not hidden in bank vaults. They show up in old jars, forgotten drawers, inherited collections, and sometimes mixed in with everyday change. Many of the most valuable examples spent years circulating, passed from hand to hand, because no one thought to look closely at a modern dime. That's the magic of error coins. They are accidents frozen in metal, each one telling a story about a specific moment in time when something went wrong at the mint. A machine misfired. A die wore down. A planchet slipped into the wrong production line. And because these mistakes weren't intentional, only a tiny number survived. The 1983 Roosevelt dime is proof that you don't need gold or silver to find extraordinary value. Sometimes, all it takes is curiosity, patience, and a closer look at what everyone else ignores. That unassuming dime could carry the weight of history, craftsmanship, and chance, all wrapped into one small coin. So the next time you come across a Roosevelt dime dated 1983 with a small D beneath the date, don't dismiss it. Examine the mint mark. Check the weight. Look closely at the lettering and the metal, because hidden inside the smallest coin in your pocket could be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. In the world of numismatics, even 10 cents can hold a six-figure secret, waiting quietly for the right person to notice. Think for a moment about the loose change you might have ignored today. That dime sitting on your dresser, dropped into a cup holder, or buried in an old jar doesn't look special. It's small, light, and easy to overlook. But what if one of those dimes, dated 1989, could quietly be worth anywhere from $60,120 to $140,760? It sounds unreal, yet for a select group of collectors, this scenario has already become reality. This is the hidden story of the 1989 U.S. Roosevelt one-dime error coin, an everyday object transformed into a remarkable piece of American numismatic history. By 1989, the Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for more than 4 decades. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the coin symbolized resilience, leadership, and recovery after the Great Depression and World War II. By the late 1980s, however, the dime had become so familiar that few people gave it a second glance. It was simply money used, spent, and forgotten. But behind the scenes, the U.S. economy was changing. Inflation had reshaped the value of everyday currency, and the U.S. Mint was under constant pressure to produce massive quantities of coins to meet public demand. Millions of dimes were struck each year at different mints, including Philadelphia and Denver, using copper-nickel-clad planchets designed to replace the more expensive silver composition used decades earlier. Speed and efficiency were essential, and perfection sometimes took a back seat. Inside the minting facilities, enormous presses struck blank planchets with tremendous force, imprinting Roosevelt's portrait on one side and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the other. Dies wore down over time, inspections were fast, and minor flaws were often missed. In this high-speed environment, small mistakes slipped through, mistakes that would later become the foundation of incredible value. One of the most sought-after errors found on 1989 Roosevelt dimes is the double die. Under magnification, elements such as the date, the word Liberty, or Roosevelt's profile appear doubled, almost as if the image shifted during striking. This error happens when a die receives a misaligned double impression during its creation, then goes on to strike thousands of coins before the flaw is discovered. Even rarer are off-metal or wrong planchet errors. Some 1989 dimes were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations, or even on foreign planchets. These coins often weigh more or less than a standard dime, appear thicker or thinner, or display unusual coloration. The sound they make when dropped on a hard surface can even be different, something experienced collectors notice immediately. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. While minor off-center errors are relatively common, dramatic examples from 1989 with clear dates and strong detail are exceptionally scarce. In some cases, mint mark anomalies appear, such as weak or missing mint marks, adding another layer of intrigue and rarity. Stories of discovery make these coins even more captivating. A collector opens a roll of dimes purchased from a bank, casually flipping through them. One coin looks odd. The date seems thicker. The lettering doesn't sit quite right. Under a loop, the doubling becomes obvious. In another story, someone sorts through old change inherited from a parent, notices a dime that feels heavier than normal, and realizes it doesn't match the standard specifications. In that moment, an ordinary day turns unforgettable. Auction houses have confirmed that these moments can be life-changing. Verified 1989 Roosevelt dime-era coins, professionally graded and authenticated, have stunned the numismatic world. Depending on the type of error, the sharpness of the strike, and the overall condition, some of these dimes have sold privately or at auction for prices ranging from $60,120 to as high as $140,760. These are not exaggerated figures, they are documented results that underscore just how valuable these mistakes can be. Condition plays a massive role in determining value. A heavily worn error coin might still be interesting, but it won't command top dollar. On the other hand, a dime in near-perfect mint state condition, with crisp details, clean surfaces, and original luster, can skyrocket in value. Professional grading services evaluate every tiny detail, assigning a grade that helps buyers understand exactly what they're getting and how rare it truly is. Rarity is the final piece of the puzzle. While millions of 1989 dimes were produced, only a microscopic fraction contained significant errors. Even fewer survived in high condition. Many were spent, damaged, or lost long before anyone realized their importance. That scarcity is what fuels intense demand among collectors who know these opportunities may never come again. What makes this story so compelling is where these coins are found. Not locked away in museums or guarded vaults, but in everyday places, old jars, drawers, inherited collections, and sometimes even in circulation. These error dimes survived simply because no one noticed them. They blended in perfectly with millions of ordinary coins. And that's the real lesson. History doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone curious enough to look closer. The 1989 U.S. Roosevelt one-dime error coin proves that even the smallest and most overlooked objects can carry extraordinary stories and unexpected value. So the next time you come across an old dime, especially one dated 1989, don't rush past it. Take a moment, examine it carefully, check the weight, the details, the alignment, because somewhere among those forgotten coins could be a tiny piece of history. One that turns a simple dime into a discovery worth more than you ever imagined.